Can you take away from that UL performance and just moving forward into
Well, the
Tulane?
first thing is first road trip. Spend the night in a hotel. Get everybody acclimated to how we do things. So that was a learning experience for everybody. It went smoothly. Certainly the game, it's always good to win. I was so impressed with the people there and how many were in attendance and how receptive they were, not just to me, but just to interstate schools going at it. It was not a pretty game. It was one that, quite frankly, I think I said it after the game, I would have left if I'd have paid to buy that ticket in the first quarter because we were awful and shooting the ball and they were turning it over. But that's the great thing about sports. You got to keep playing. And we left there with a victory, and now we've got to prepare for a very, very good Tulane team.
Hey, Coach, you're in the middle, piggybacking off of that. Before you got here, Tulane has beaten LSU a few times before you got here. And Stockton really does a good job there, too, right? Can you just talk about the challenge that they present?
Well, Lisa's been at Tulane, 28 years, I think I was told. She's a staple not only for Tulane but for that city, and she's an outstanding coach. Tulane is very good. Tulane has redshirt seniors, redshirt juniors. They've got 4 starters back. They added a player off of my championship team in Ursin. They're 4-0. They were picked 4th this year in their league. They finished 4th last year. They're good. They're very solid. There is no one spectacular player. They play well together. They mix their defenses up. They've been on the road and won against SEC opponent. They've been in overtime and won against a Big 12 opponent. They're very confident, but confidence comes with how good you are, and they're very good, and we have our hands full.
Coach, you were talking about staying in a hotel room, like the little stuff, how we do things, and after the UL game, you were talking about dribbling the ball out, and to wind down the clock and stuff. Is it stuff like that that's harder to implement than the actual X's and O's right now with this team?
Well, I think it's all of it. That's a part of the X's and O's, and I think it's retaining things. In practice, you repeat it over and over and over and over. But when the lights come on, or you a team or an individual player that can take it to the floor and perform, and I think when you're inexperienced, when you're a new staff, new players, you see things like that happen. And so you have to teach in the moment. And I'm sure people thought I was fussing at them. I wasn't fussing. I was teaching. That's how I coach. And we came back the next practice and went over it again. So it wasn't anything that has not been taught over and over again. It's just sometimes in the heat of the moment, sometimes inexperience, all those things factor in.
Coach, you talked before the season about the whole Ursin situation, how she wanted to be closer to home. Obviously, she's a great player. Just what does she do for that Tulane team, and just what have you seen so far?
Well, Moon is probably doing the same thing for Tulane that she did for our Baylor team. One of the all-time fan favorites in the history of women's basketball at Baylor. And she's smart, makes great grades. She's pleasant to coach. She just does things that you ask her to do. She is a rarity this day and time because most kids want things today, and if they don't get their way, they transfer out. Moon is one of about 3 or 4 young ladies that I had to coach in my time at Baylor that did it the right way. She worked every day to get better, and when her time came, she became a all Big 12 performer. And she signed to come here with our staff, and then just decided, it didn't feel right, and she wanted to be closer to home. And Tulane is where she was going. Had I not gotten the LSU job anyway, she had already graduated, and so I'm so happy for her. I'm the biggest fan of Moon Ursin, and I'll pull for her every time she plays except for Tuesday night.
What are the things that you've seen after 3 games that you feel it can improve on, and will get better with time and chemistry, that sort of thing with your team?
I think a little bit of all of it, Scott. I think I really do think our defense is so much better than our offense, and it may end up being that way the whole year. You can only improve certain areas on the offensive end. I can't take somebody and say, this kid has never been a three-point shooter, and then go make them a three-point shooter. But I can maybe give them confidence to shoot one or two and make one or two. So you can't change big things like that. We have to buy in, and they are on the defensive end of the floor on what we're trying to do, but you got to make sure you have opponents that help you gain that confidence. Florida Gulf Coast, when I saw it on the darn schedule, I said, I wish I could get rid of that. That's not what we need right now. I'm big inside. I've got to get those kids playing man-to-man defense against people they can guard. So I really think if we just keep defending hard, some of the things that we can do on offense can become easier. I can't change shots. I don't ever fool with people's shots. But I can maybe get them in position to score the ball easier because of our defense. I think it goes without saying, every team that I've ever coached, you don't want them to turn the ball over. But sometimes you play people who just create that havoc and create those turnovers. But I can't tell you that some of the games we've played where we've had bad turnovers is caused by the opponent. I think it's just caused by us doing things or trying to do things, hit the home run instead of taking a single.
Coach, you mentioned that Florida Gulf Coast game, and I remember in the post game you said we just don't have the type of players to guard that kind of offense. Like, do you fix that? Because you're going to come across another team like that.
Just one out of 30 games, you're going to see maybe two teams that do that. And in the women's game, really you see most of that probably on the WNBA level. You will see it against a lot of teams that don't have bigs. I mean, if I didn't have bigs, I'd go learn that offense. I've been blessed to have bigs my entire career. So you got to make a decision on, if I don't think there's a coach in America that would turn down a big. So I've been blessed to have bigs. So I just knew when I saw them on the schedule, I know their style of play, and I knew even at my greatest Baylor teams, it was always difficult to guard those teams that don't have the bigs that they can match up with. And it's not going to change my philosophy. My philosophy is you go get you a big that can play, you go get you a shooter, and you go get you a point guard, and then you fill the pieces in around it. Now, if you can't recruit that, then you have to adjust as a coach.
Coach, I've talked to a couple people who are excited, have been enjoying this fast break club that you're starting to do before games and everything. How vital are those kind of things, like when Flo was playing here and they used to pack that place to get them back?
Well, it's vital. It's not just vital from a financial point of view, because some of those monies that we get from the people we use for unexpected things that come up that are not covered in our budget. But it's vital in that they help sell tickets. They know somebody who knows somebody, and they'll bring a kid, and they'll bring a family, and they'll bring somebody else, and it just kind of spreads like a wildfire. And it's a fun time. I think if you look at women's basketball across the country, the majority of fans are the elderly and young families with children. You don't see a lot of your college students at women's basketball games like you do at the men. And it's not just here, it's at the best of best. It's at all the big-time programs. So I think that when you have a gathering once a month with me and talking and cutting up, and they see a side of me, and you introduce them to the players, and the players come and they can ask them questions, they can touch and feel and be around them. They're accessible, and that matters to young families who their kids can come and say, oh, wow, I got to hug her, I got to take a picture with her. And then when they go on the court, it's wow, I know them. I think The best thing that I can do as their coach is to be accessible to the public, be accessible to people, be seen. And I'm a very private person, but in order to sell the program until we get it, where we want it, you have to do those kinds of things. And I'll do my part.
You're talking about marketing the program. Being here, I think about Gary Blair. He's a Texas guy, and he marketed A&M the best because I feel like he felt like it was a second home for him, or he was in his home state. Has it made it easier for you to market LSU because you're from here?
Oh, I definitely think that. You guys probably can answer that better than I can. It just, there's something about when people know you and you grow up, even if you may not know them on a personal level, you're proud because you feel like that's my kid. And look, when I came back here, there were as many North Louisiana people in that press conference as there were from down here. There probably are more North Louisiana people that are buying season tickets now that are not LSU fans. There are Baylor fans who have bought season tickets and can't come, but they're going to give them away to the Boys and Girls Club. You just have a connection, whether you personally know somebody or not. And I just feel like this was my calling. I need to come back here for a lot of reasons. And just as I said about playing at UL the other night, what a great crowd. I never had so many people in red sweaters and red shirts lean over. And it wasn't good luck tonight, Coach. It was thank you for coming home. Because they're Louisiana people. And that made me feel good. It made me realize, Kim, this was the right move to make for a lot of reasons.
Coach, obviously y'all got off to a good start with your first recruiting class, signed a couple of top 100 players. What is I know you have to speak in generalities, but going forward, what has the reception been like? Is it what you've been used to at Baylor? Is there more work to do, more work to do to catch up to where you'd like to be in terms of recruiting level?
Recruiting is the lifeblood of all programs. Now let me make it clear. I'd rather coach than recruit. You got some coaches who are better recruiters than they are coaches. I like to coach. If you could say, Kim, take one or the other, man, I want to be in that locker room. I want to be on that floor. You go get me the players. But I understand I can't have this over here without this. It's work, Scott. It doesn't matter if you're winning at the Final Four level, at the level we were at Baylor. The hard work was maintaining it. Now it's basically starting from the bottom and working your way up. And I was very pleased with who we signed in the first recruiting class. Certainly we're not finished with the transfer portal. We'll constantly be looking in there. And we also understand we may not keep everybody. There's nobody on my on my team other than one that really came with me. Everybody else is either going to graduate after this year or the previous staff recruited them. It's just the nature of what's going on in athletics right now. You never stop recruiting, and it will be hard. You're in a league that will humble you. Nobody feels sorry for you. And yet it's the same as it was at Baylor. You got to recruit. You got to have connections. You got to get them here. They have to believe in you. You can sell some things now as I have a resume. 22 years ago at Baylor, I didn't have a resume. I had playing resume, an assistant coach resume, but as a head coach, you can sell that. You can sell the brand. You can sell NIL, how we've embraced all of that stuff. So it's an easy sell, but yet it's a hard sell. But we're going to work at it.
Coach, where is Hannah Guster's, her progression? Can you just speak to that? I know the down low you wanted to really work on. That's what she said is the reason why she followed you here is because she knew you would get her to be a dominant post player. Is she there? Is she getting there?
No, she's just a baby. She's just, she didn't get hardly play last year. Okay, so last year, like a lot of people, as a freshman, it's a very frustrating year. Well, now you bring her to a whole new setup here. She knows my system, but she doesn't know her teammates. She doesn't know the SEC. She doesn't know any of that. Her role will change significantly because of the minutes she will play, but it will also expose her because she is only really a freshman again. That takes a while, and I have to back off somewhat and not have unrealistic expectations until she gets older and she has more experience under her belt. Bingo. See y'all.